Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Alex Bourne. I'm from Rockwell Guitar School in Shoreview, Minnesota, and this is lesson 51 of our music theory series. Today we're going to be talking about chromatic intervals. Now I talked about major intervals and perfect intervals so far. Basically, anything else is going to be a chromatic interval, okay? And there are a couple types of chromatic intervals. Basically, if you change any of the major or the perfect intervals, you're going to have a chromatic interval, and it will either be a minor interval, a diminished interval, or an augmented interval, okay? So we'll talk about those right here. Let's see. If the upper note of an interval is not found in the major scale built on the lower note, it's called a chromatic interval. If the upper note is a half step lower than a major interval, it's called a minor interval. So most of this focuses on the upper note in any given interval. So, like I was saying before, if you take a major interval like this and you alter it, you lower the top note by half step, you get a minor interval. So what used to be a major second is now a minor second. Okay, likewise for a major third, if you lower that top note by half step, you get a minor third. Same with major sixth. So these are all the major intervals. If you lower those by half step, you get a minor interval. Okay, so major sixth, C to A. Lower that to A flat, you get a minor sixth. Okay, major seventh, C to B, and if you lower that to a B flat, you get a minor seventh. Okay, now if you lower a minor interval by another half step, you get a diminished interval. Okay, this also goes for perfect intervals. If you lower a perfect interval by a half step, you get a diminished interval. Okay, so minor or perfect, if you lower it a half step, you get a diminished interval. So here we have, if we ignore this B flat or D flat, we have C to D, that would be a major interval. You lower it by a half step, you get a minor second, and you lower that top note by another half step, you get a diminished second. Okay. Yeah, now you might be asking yourself, well, a D double flat is a C again, so wouldn't that be a prime? Not necessarily. In some theoretical contexts, this happens that way. When you get into more exotic chords, more exotic scales, you're going to find things like that. So it does happen. If you played it on an instrument, yes, it would technically be the same note, but in our theoretical system of music, it's just how we kind of rationalize the things that happen on paper. So minor third, lowered a half step, you get diminished third. Okay, here's an example of a perfect interval being lowered by a half step to get a diminished interval. Okay, now if you raise any of the major intervals by a half step, or any of the perfect intervals by half step, you get an augmented interval. Okay, so here's a perfect prime. Remember, that's a perfect interval. You raise it a half step, you get an augmented prime. Okay, major second, raise it by a half step, you get an augmented second. Let's do a perfect interval. So you get a perfect fourth, raise that by a half step, you have an augmented fourth. Okay, so that's the system of intervals. Now you need to name the intervals indicated here. So let's look at this. From F to A flat is a minor third, right? First, if we ignore this flat symbol, we have a major third. Lower that a half step, we get a minor third. All right. Now G to D, all right, if we ignore that flat symbol, it is a perfect fifth. But if we add a flat to it and you lower a perfect interval, you get a diminished interval. So now this is a diminished fifth. Okay. This is a little bit tougher here. We have C and we have C sharp. Okay. Now remember, if you raise a perfect interval like an octave, C to C, if you raise it, you get an augmented interval. So here we have the same example right here. C to C sharp is an augmented octave or augmented eighth. Yeah. So you get the idea. Go ahead and fill out the rest. Now you have the intervals laid out for you. You have to write the second note in. So a diminished fourth, basically we're going to go up above the indicator. So diminished fourth. Now F to B flat, that's going to be a perfect fourth. You add another flat to that B and you're going to have a diminished fourth. So let's see if that fulfills our rules here. If the upper note is half step lower than a minor or perfect interval, it is called a diminished interval. Yep. So that was a little tricky here. You got to be thinking in your key of F major, okay, which has one flat, that's B flat. So that's going to be your perfect fourth, and so F to B double flat is going to be a diminished fourth, okay? Kind of tough there. Okay, now here we need a fifth, and we need to augment it. So C, D, E, F, G. C to G is going to be a perfect fifth. You raise it to G sharp, you're going to have an augmented fifth, all right? Let's do one more. Let's see. So diminished second, we have a G. A major second is going to be an A. If you lower that a half step, you have a minor second, G to A flat. And you lower that another half step, G to A double flat, that's going to be a diminished second. All right, so go ahead and fill out the rest there. Be careful, okay? You're probably going to want to revisit these rules up here, okay? So these are good rules to stick to. I strongly suggest you review them and know them like the back of your hand. Okay, name the intervals indicated. So let's see. A to A is a prime, raise it a half step. You get an augmented interval, so that's augmented prime. Yep. Okay. C to B double flat. C to B normal natural is going to be a major 7. Lower a half step, you get a minor 7. Lower a minor interval by a half step, you get a diminished 7. So diminished 7 right there. Here we have B. Looks like B flat again. You got to be careful here because if you ignore this flat symbol, you have an octave, right? Now, if you change a perfect interval, you get either augmented or diminished, okay? Diminished is going to be going down. So you add a flat symbol to a perfect octave, you have a diminished octave. See if that's, C to C flat. Same idea right there. Okay, now go ahead and fill out the rest there. This one's a tricky one, so watch your details, watch your rules, and go back and review if you need to, all right? Any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching.